Прицел 480. Орудие! Выстрел! Орудие!
The war in Ukraine brought out of the old Soviet warehouses a howitzer, which is perhaps the most popular among Russian soldiers. The Msta-B is a towed howitzer that is often called the city killer because of its powerful striking power and the shells it uses. Recently, the crew of the Msta-B howitzer of the Dnepr group of forces destroyed the control point of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and personnel of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU, on the right bank of the Dnepr River in the Kherson region. This was announced on March 8 by the Russian Ministry of Defense. According to the coordinates obtained from aerial reconnaissance, the calculations of 152mm Msta-B guns launched an artillery strike and hit the UAV control center with personnel disguised in abandoned residential buildings in Kherson. During combat missions, calculations of 152mm Msta-B howitzers use high explosive fragmentation as well as high precision ammunition, which allows maximum fire damage to AFU formations at a distance of up to 25 kilometers. There's a reason the Msta is a killing machine. This is the Krasnopol artillery shell. A little known fact is that Krasnopol is not that much used in Ukraine by the Russian army. There could be any number of reasons. From insufficient stock and delayed production to its use only in the second phase of the war. But Msta-C and Msta-B used Krasnopol in Ukraine war. There is evidence for this. Last June, for example, the Ukrainian tank column was preparing for counter-offensive actions. All the tanks were incinerated in a minimum time by precision shooting with Krasnopol and precise targeting from the air using a drone. Experts emphasize that the Msta series of howitzers can be judged by their effectiveness because of the destructive power that is hidden in the charge we have commented on. A layman's eye can tell when the Msta uses an OG-45HE round, the Msta standard in Krasnopol, simply by seeing the end result. Krasnopol is an artillery projectile with a semi-active laser homing head. On the downward part of the trajectory, the head independently searches for a target illuminated by a laser pointer. Elevation: no more than a few meters. The construction of the Msta in both modifications makes a strong impression. For example, writes Maya Karlin, the powerful 152mm gun of the self-propelled howitzer, Msta-C, is supported by two metal holders. They are located parallel to each other on both sides of the cannon, which ensures its stability during a shot. The two wheels of the towed howitzer, Msta-B, are located literally at the very end of the gun to provide balance during towing. However, this final arrangement of the wheels cannot provide the usual stability during shooting. The Msta-B has slightly more recoil than usual for any towed howitzer. The Msta can fire nuclear-tipped artillery shells. This is especially true for the 2A65 Msta-B towed howitzer. Sources report that during exercises in the Russian Federation, always at each of the exercises at least several times, the towed version of the howitzer was tested for accuracy, range, and destructive power, precisely after the use of a nuclear projectile. Speaking of range, here are howitzers' operational ranges. Surprisingly, both howitzers have a similar range, which is an equal sign that both are equally dangerous. or that the same result is expected from both. Take that as you will. The range of the Msta is from 24.7 kilometers, 15.3 miles, to 36 kilometers, 22 miles, depending on the ammunition used. At the end of last year, during the ADEX exhibition in Azerbaijan, the Russian company Rosoboron Export showed a configuration of Msta for export. The Russian company confirmed that the new export version fires NATO projectiles, i.e. 155 millimeters. Other sophisticated 152mm rounds recently developed for the 2A65 include cassettes filled with 42 anti-personnel/armor-piercing shrapnel bomblets, each containing 45 grams of a high explosive. Another novel round of ammunition is the container dispensing tiny radio transmitters designed to disrupt enemy communications. The Msta-B entered production almost 30 years ago, but it remains an up-to-date weapon nonetheless, all the more so compared to the outdated artillery systems in the Syrian army's inventory. The Syrian troops lack a gun capable of rivaling the Msta-B, except maybe for their 130mm M46 guns supplied by the Soviet Union. The 130mm M46 field gun was developed as a counter-battery weapon. It was designed to replace in the Soviet Army's inventory the obsolete 122mm A-19 gun, developed in 1931 and upgraded in 1937. In line with the requirements, its prototype was developed in the early 50s, and its full-scale production kicked off in 1954. The 152mm Msta-B is the latest addition to the long list of Soviet and Russian-made towed howitzers. Compared to its predecessors, the 2A65 features several radical novelties, of which the most visible one is its thin tube about 40 calibers long and equipped with a double-slot muzzle brake. Of interest also is the twin-trail carriage, fitted with retractable wheels on each trail and a hydraulic jack with a pad under the carriage's platform to raise the wheels when firing. The 2A65 with its 8-man crew has a deployment/displacement time of 2 to 2.5 minutes. Its rammer and semi-automatic breech block ensure a practical rate of fire of 7 RD per minute. The weapon can be towed at 80 km/h by highway or at 20 km/h by dirt road.